Today is Sunday, April 9th, 2017. This is the beginning of an interview with Summer Glen at the Summer Glen Golf Community. My name is Joseph Asen, and I will be the interviewer. Also present is Sam Krakowski, and he will operate the video. Could you tell us your full name and your address?
Okay, my full name is Donald Earl Boyd, B-O-Y-D. I live in Ocala, Florida.
Where and when were you born, and how old are you today?
Okay, I was born on June the 4th, 1940, in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. I'm 77. Nope, I'll be 77 in June, I'm sorry.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My parents, my mother, she was a housewife, and my father worked at the shipyards, the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. He was a supervisor for some of the construction they were doing during the war. The war was just starting. So he couldn't go because he had 3 kids.
Did you have any siblings?
Did I have? Got 2 brothers, both older than I am, and I've got a stepsister and a half-brother younger than I am.
And what were their names?
My sister is Barbara Louise Horton, and my brother is Frank Boyd. My oldest brother is Jack. He lives in Maui. He's on his way out now. And my other brother is David, and he lives in New York somewhere.
Did any of your siblings serve in the military?
Yes, my number 2 brother, the one that lived in New York, he was 4 years in the Navy as a machinist mate.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was going to high school.
And when did you enter the service?
On July 1st, 1957.
And which branch of service did you serve in?
The Navy.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted. I quit school. Needed to get away, needed to go in my direction. We even did that back in those days.
Why did you choose that specific branch of the military?
My father, like I said, used to work at the shipyard, and on weekends he would have a whole group of people that would come in for the weekend, all the sailors off the ship, and they provided a big influence on my decision, especially one guy. He was a cook, and that was my goal, was to be good a cook. It never happened, but hey.
What was your rank?
My rank when I retired was an E7. I was chief personnelman.
And where did you serve?
I served in Washington, D.C. It was my first duty station. Then I went to Bremerhaven, Germany as my second one. I came back to D.C. Then went back over to Europe, to Italy. Did a tour in San Vito, Italy, then left Italy, drove up to Todendorf, Germany, which is up by Kiel. And when I finished there, I went back to D.C. and I stayed there till I retired. And then I just stayed there.
Can you describe basic training?
Basic training. It was the scariest thing I ever went to. I was 17. I didn't know what to expect. I just, on a whim, decided that I was going to enlist and go, and I did. And they said, never volunteer when you get into the service, and I got in there. The first thing I did was volunteer. I ended up with the Naval Security Group. Naval Security Group, at that time, was a very small group of people that had different stations around Europe. They were mostly crypto-type people, and I ended up getting into the personnel side of it, and I would send them out to sea, and I never went. Very fortunate. In a way, it was. It was. I'm sorry that I never went, but
Where did you receive your basic training?
received my basic training in Bainbridge, Maryland.
And did you qualify for any weapons during basic training? Like using any?
Did I learn weapons?
Or did you learn how to use them during basic training?
Basic rifles. We had rifle practice, shot, practice and stuff like that. We did more time on the grinder marching than we did, but a lot of classroom. It was shipboard. There was no ship. There was a big model of one on the grinder, and we did all our practice through there. It was an interesting thing. At the time, it was also scary, but it was fun. But
Do you recall your instructors?
my instructors, no, I don't.
Did you receive any special training?
No, I didn't.
What qualification level did you achieve?
Qualification for, I was just a basic seaman
Okay.
when I left Bainbridge.
How did you adapt to military life?
I adapted very well, yes. Unlike my kids, I told them never to go because I knew their personalities. You really have to be a very adaptable type of person in the service because you have to learn to take orders and you have to do what they tell you to do. And I fit right in there. I made it well.
Were you married or single at the time?
I was single at the time.
Do you recall anything about the physical regimen, the barracks, the food, or the social life during that time?
In the service, the social life was good. You made a lot of friends quick because you didn't know how long you would be with them, and you knew it was temporary, but it was okay, and it went well. We had a good time. Once I got married and we were overseas, the camaraderie of the military on a base became so knit tight that everybody got along pretty well. I mean, you always have a few people that don't, but we got along really well, and we socialized a lot, and we had a good time. I was always at small duty stations, so like my first duty station overseas was in Bremerhaven, which was a large Army base, and we had a small Navy contingent there, and it was close, but we got to know all the different services there. My second duty station was real small, and I only had 60-some people to take care of, military-wise, personnel. But the wives made it like it was, we were very personal. And my third son was born over there. So.
Did you serve during a war?
No. I was very fortunate.
How long were you overseas?
Altogether, I was there about 10 years. I did about 10 in the States, 10 in Washington and Norfolk in the States. But
What are some memories of going overseas?
memories of going overseas. The first one was the scariest one, of course. I've never been out of Philadelphia, never been out of the state of Pennsylvania, I don't think. And I had to fly on I spent a month up in Brooklyn, New York first, as waiting for transportation. And then we went to Fort Dix, and you flew backwards back then. So it was quite an experience. It was a good experience, and when I got into the barracks there, and I met some of the people, they were all in my same grade and all. We just kind of melded together, and we became very close. In fact, the one guy became my best man. Well, no, there were 3 of them were in my wedding, so, and I was in a couple of theirs. So.
How did you stay in contact with family back home?
How did I stay in contact with him? Letter was about the only way back then. I mean, you could call, once a month. Well, you could call any time, but I used to call about once a month. And, I wasn't real close to my family, so that's why I joined the Navy. And you'll find that a lot of military are like that.
What did you do for recreation when you were off duty?
When I was off, when I was single, we partied pretty much. We went to the beach a lot. We toured. We did a lot of touring. We being in both in D.C. and in all the different countries. The touring was just awesome. It just had a good time with it.
Did you get enough sleep?
I seem to, yeah.
What kind of friendships did you form while serving?
I have three really good friends. One just recently passed away, and that was a hard thing to do. But your first people that you meet seem to be your closest, and I stayed close with them until I'm still close with them. So.
Did you admire the people that you served with?
Most of them, yes. You have all different kinds of people in the service, and you gotta watch where you're going and what you're doing. But in the most part, I did. I respected the officers that I worked for, the chiefs, and just had a good time. And
Were you ever under enemy fire?
what?
Were you ever under enemy fire?
No.
What were your duties?
What were my duties? I was a personnelman. I took care of the personnel records. Whenever somebody came aboard, we checked them in, and we got them to their quarters. We put them in, we showed them where all the barracks were, chow hall, all the normal things there. As they did things through their tour, advanced, took leave, went to mass, went to captain's mass or anything like that. I kept the records for that and for the whole command. So I had it depended on which command I was at, but at the big commands you usually only have one individual place that you work, like I was the diary person at the big command. At the small command I was the every guy, I was the go-to guy for personnel. I took care of training for them, provided them with paperwork and things like that to get them to take the GI Bill and to get interested in taking night classes. Now, we were on small bases, but we had classes that always had something going on. So it was that kind of work. It was all to do with people, and I loved that part.
Did you admire your commanding officer?
Some of them, yes. Some of them I respected, and that was about it. Commanding officers are like friends, you never know what they're going to be like. And, this one guy, he was the nicest person, but he always gave me a hard time. I don't know why, But I always gave him a hard time back. Not very properly, I might say. I was very careful about what I did, but you had people that you wondered how they got there or whatever the reason, and that's fine because it was because of that mix that made it so much fun, I guess, for me.
What are your most memorable experiences?
Most memorable experiences is the military. Well, it's hard to say any particular one. There was many that I had. And again, it was because of the group of people that we were with at the time. Like in the big stations, not as much, but when I went around to the small stations, got to know the people, their families, and of course, in a way, I was responsible for them too, because I had to make sure that they got their stuff. So it was an interesting time, and it was all memorable. The biggest memory I have, I guess, is when my son was born. He was born in Tripoli, and my wife had to go down there. She left on the plane the day she was due, but all of our kids were late, so it didn't matter. So she got there 2 weeks later. She had the baby, and 2 weeks after she left, Gaddafi took over the base. So that was a kind of a memorable thing for us, but. It was fun. It was, it was an interesting thing. She could have gone to the Italian hospital and done that, and she said no way. So,
How and when did you return home?
how and when did I return home? Well, like I said, I've been back and forth 3 different times. So the last time I came back was in '71, and I went back to Washington, D.C., and I went to the Bureau of Naval Personnel, which is now down in Tennessee, but that was and that was an experience in itself at the time, because that was in the early '60s, and there was early '70s, and that was a time when we still had a lot of deserters and everything. My job was one of 3 deserter clerks. We had all the records up on the 4th floor or 3rd floor. And I had O through Z. I had 600 deserters. Had to take care of their records. If they came back, there was things we had to do. If they died, there was things we had to do, So, and I was in this office, and it was kind of like this, and everybody was sitting behind me. And they were all civilians. And I was the only military. But it was an interesting time. It was that time of year, the war was still on and everything, and it was interesting.
How are you? Oh, you go ahead.
When you found somebody, did you have to turn them over to the military police,
Yes,
or
yes.
how did you handle that?
Yeah, we usually didn't get involved in that. We were involved mostly with the military police. And we would call them and say, okay, we got a call from Joe Brown, and he is here, or somebody said he is there, and this is where, then they would go. And if they caught him, then we would send their records.
How were you received by your family and your community?
How was I received? I was liked. I think I was liked. You hate to say that you weren't liked, but no, we had a good time off base. Wherever we moved, we kind of fit right in. The 3 kids, you don't have a hard life. The kids get in, and then the parents get together.
How did you adjust to civilian life?
How did I adjust to that? Oh, that was not a problem. It didn't matter where I was. I felt that I was always the same. So, and I got along with everybody. So I tried.
What have you done since leaving the military?
When I left the Navy, I said I was working in the Bureau. I had moved from the deserter section down to the detailing section. And the detailing section moves all the enlisted people in the Navy. And they had one section in there that detailed strictly to new construction surface ships, aircraft carriers down to smaller boat ships. And the guy that was in that job wanted to go to Norfolk, be with his family, and I lived in D.C., and I wanted his job. So I got it. So I was very fortunate. So after that, I worked for that company, for them for 3.5 years, about 3.5 years. And then I came to the end of my tour, and they said, okay, we think that you should go to sea. Okay, I made chief a couple of months before that. A chief going to sea first time, not good idea. So I was close to eligible for retirement, so I said I would like to retire, so I did. And turned around and went to work for one of the Department of the Navy offices that built those ships. I had gotten to know those people really well, and so I worked for them for about 10 years. And mostly what I was doing for them was developing training. Now, not the kind that you take a test. It's the kind is, what's that training? What is that training, you know? How to fix this, or how to do that, or how, you know. And it was brand new equipment, right out of the contractor's shop. It was really interesting stuff. So I would do that. And then after, many times I went down to the ships, and I talked to the ships, and I talked to the people I sent there, and they gave me tours. And I have a plank ownership. It's a piece of paper you get whenever they commission a ship. For each ship I did. I have 21 of them. From 2 carriers all the way down to a DDG. You know, it was interesting. It was fun, and I would spend the day when I was in that job from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, talking to the XO or the chief and head of personnel or whoever, saying who's coming and where they're coming from and what training they're getting and all that. And that's how I was able to move into the construction side of it. So,
Has your service impacted your feelings about the military?
no. Mm-mm.
Do you know anyone that has post-traumatic stress?
Post-traumatic, I've known a few people that have had it, and what can I say? You have to be very careful with those people, but very, you know, I was able to get along with them, and I never had a problem with them.
What effect did serving in the military have on your faith or your spirituality?
None.
Would you want your son or daughter to enter the military?
Pardon?
Would you want your son or daughter to enter the military?
Oh, yeah. I would like them to, but like I said in the beginning, they don't have the personality for it, and I wouldn't recommend it. And my son, who did go, he did not like the Navy. And he was stationed in Hawaii. I said, son, how can you not like the Navy? But to each his own, you know.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations?
Here at the Summer Glen at the club, yes.
Have you remained in contact or reunited with any fellow veterans?
Have I made any contact?
Remained in contact.
Oh, I've been in contact with a lot of them. But, you know, as friends, or we do, through the organization here, the Summer Glen Vets, we provide help for the vets in Marion County. And at Christmas we give them food and we give them presents and stuff. And Thanksgiving we give them food, the families, the people that need the help. And I think they appreciate it, and everybody that I've ever talked to said that they just were stunned, you know. We took last year, I guess. It was last year we took boxes, and I'd say there were 50-pound boxes of food, and it was a turkey or a ham and dressing and canned goods and all this stuff, you know. And we worked with the people down, Vets Helping Vets in Marion, and they contacted people and had them come. Well, this one woman, she came. She got out of her car. She was so enthusiastic. She sang. Most beautiful voice you ever want to hear. she brought tears to every one of our eyes. I mean, they appreciated it, and to do that kind of good for somebody is good. And I love to, yes, and I help when I can, wherever I can.
What are some life lessons that you learned in the military?
Life lessons. I think what I learned the most from the military was not only how to get along, but sharing with people and being able to help them or have them help you, not being afraid to ask for help if you need it and stuff like that. And most people don't see that, but it's very prevalent. The people that, you know, the veterans today, I can't understand how a veteran can get out and not find his way. But I'm glad that there's people like the Veterans Club and myself to help them, because there's a case where, you know, where you have the PSD or, you know, the post-traumatic syndrome. And I think that's probably the cause of a lot of it.
What lessons would you like to pass on to today's generation?
It's very interesting. The Navy today is definitely not the Navy of 1957. And I think the basics are there, and I guess in their language, the best thing I can say is try to go with the flow. But know what you're going into. Know that you're going to be told what to do and how to do it and when to do it and who to do it to. Everything is told to you. And you cannot be independent in that way. You have to do what they do, because it could get you killed. It could get your whole team killed, you know, something like that. Now, I was never involved in a situation where combat system, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm glad. You know, I'm here today because of that. So.
Is there anything I forgot to ask about your military experience?
No, I think you've pretty much covered pretty much of it. There's a lot goes on in the military, both on the job and as a civilian or as a, you know, off duty. The best thing to do is just try to get together with your people and understand if they have problems, help them. If they don't have problems, then tell them to help you. But no, if I had to do it again, the only thing I would say is I would if it was the same time, same place. Okay? Today I don't know I could handle that because of the changes and what I know, you know. That would be hard. But I loved every minute of it. And total, I worked for the Department of the Navy. So total I did 47 years. And it was worth every minute. The best I can do for you guys.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.